Demon today. So
Okay, well, welcome to everyone. This is the February 13th session of TangerineSDR, Clementine, and Hamside technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and we've been discussing a few ideas. But this week, I've been continuing to work on my Whisper Daemon and keeping that working, trying to get my uploadings to Bill's server working right. I think there's still some issues, but I haven't completely got my radios are all working fine. So anyway, that's about it for me. And next on the list is Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello. I've been working on some magnetometer code for the Grape 2 and other odds and ends, but nothing of great excitement to anyone here. So I'll just turn it back over.
Okay. Next on the list, we have Michael, AAAK. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, thank you. Greetings to everyone listening. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. And next on the list is David McGaw, N1HAC. Go ahead, David.
Give me a moment. Good evening, everyone. We're continuing to work on sighting our AM Doppler receivers. Hoping certainly to get those in place very shortly. And looking forward to the eclipse, trying to plan where I'm going to be. We're within 3 hours of the line in a number of different directions. So either upstate New York or northern Vermont, probably. And maybe, planning on sighting a Grape 2, which hopefully those are going to get sent out shortly. So I think that's about it. The snow that's coming this way is going 2 hours south, but I know Boston is freaking out. So better them than we. Back to net.
Okay. And next on the list is Bob, N5BRG. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, hello, everybody. I done a few things this week. I got my vertical antenna out and dusted it off and started working on, I built a little plate to mount it. This is to help Rob out with his beacon thing, and just about got it ready to put up in the air. And I'm going to go ahead and try to do that in the next few days, probably while it's pretty weather here. And that's about it for now. Dave, back to you.
Okay. And next on the list, we have David Wolf. And I can't remember your call sign, but both you and there's two of you in the picture. So
yeah, my other one's sitting here.
Yeah,
so come on over here. Come on, say hi.
There's three of us.
Three of you.
Just outside of Scranton.
Okay.
All three of us. So
Nathaniel told me about your wanting to be interested and that you have programming skills.
Well, I don't have program. I'm more of a hardware guy.
Okay.
So
are you the one that he mentioned had some FPGA experience?
No, that's I believe that's the other gentleman that's on here.
Okay.
So I'm KC3HLQ. Sean
KC3WLF and Sarah KC3WOC.
Okay.
Oh, we're starting to get into the ham stuff. I've had my license a little longer. Both of them got it in July, this past July.
Very good.
And We're all also members of our local astronomical society, Lackawanna Astronomical Society here.
Very good.
Sarah's the kind of the
Oh yeah.
better astronomer. My son's into rockets. I do all kinds of other stuff. So I'm just here to keep these guys busy. Sarah's going to be graduating high school, and one of the colleges that she's looking at is the University of Scranton. So that's how we got to meet Dr. Frizzell. And we're also members of the local Murgas Amateur Radio Society here too. So kind of all together.
Yes.
So we're looking to probably go up to, was it Syracuse?
Yes,
that we're
yes,
thinking about for the eclipse, and he was talking about bringing a radio equipment with us. So we figured we'd get involved and figure out what's going on with that.
Well, we've been developing lots of parts of the radios that can be used during the eclipse.
Okay.
And one we're working on focuses on the whisper and forms of transmitting.
Okay.
And also getting into recording WWV signals and actually looking how, well, first how they work. When we had one fellow working on differentiating between WWV and WVH, and that tells you quite a bit about propagation between the two. So we're building, people are getting ready for the eclipse coming in about a month and a half, well, 2 months now. So so welcome. If you find it interesting, please come back. And we're here every Monday night. So usually Nathaniel's with us. Sometimes it is more, sometimes less, but I did want to welcome you all.
Yeah, I think he wanted us to get kind of a punch list together of what we needed to buy so that we could get something together for it. Like I said, I'm a hardware guy. I'm an IT production manager for a local company here. I've had 30 plus years in the IT field. So
well, the one thing,
networking, all that stuff, that's nothing for me.
The one thing that our radio that we're using is a software defined radio that strongly uses multicast.
Okay.
And that confuses a lot of people who aren't used to multicast.
That's nothing.
So, but it is one of our problems. So we basically record most of the bandwidth that the receiver can handle. And then, so you only sample it once, but then you subsample it for other programs to process the data. A lot of these are data encrypted things, and like Whisper, and they will decode those. And then there's a whole system of uploading databases. Rob is one of the people that supports an uploading database. Hopefully he'll be back before the end. Okay, so I'm going to keep going on. We do a roll call first, and then we go to general discussion.
Okay.
So next on the list, we have, let's see. Oh, Franco. K4VZ. Go ahead, Franco.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I've been working on, well, not really, somewhat related on fixing some problem with the so-called SDR Play driver that I wrote because they have new hardware. So a little bit of troubleshooting with subclasses. Anyhow, I was interested if anyone is interested in FPGA because I started learning Verilog for the TRX Duo, which has a Zinc 7010. So I looked at the stuff that Pavel Demin wrote, and I'm going to try to see if I can figure out how those whisper receiver and transceiver work so I can actually extend it to the TRX Duo and do multiple receiver like that. Other than that, Dave KVOS, if you have any problem with uploading to Bill's site after the roll call, we can actually look at that and see what your problem is with SFTP. Okay.
Okay.
Back to Nat.
Okay. Next on the list is Dylan. Go ahead, Dylan.
How have you guys been? Just
Fine.
doing a lot of oh shoot, that's right. I forgot.
So go ahead, Dylan.
There we go. I had to take it off my Bluetooth headset. So doing a lot of work on a truck and not much else, but getting ready to start setting up my Grape version 1.2. Finally took me a while, but I finally figured out what was going on with my Raspberry Pi, and still not sure why it was happening, but I was having problems with the OS not booting properly or something like that, and found someone that could help me out in person, and it's working now. So at some point here, I'm gonna get that all set up and finally have that sucker running. But other than that, don't have anything else, so I'll send it back to Net Control.
Okay, thank you. Next on the list is Jim, N5NRA. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, not much of interest from here. Just logged in to get some more education. Back
Very
to the
good.
net.
Next on the list is Joe, W7LUX. Go ahead.
Good evening, all. Kind of in maintenance mode here, just keeping the grapes running. And we had a couple of power outages, and the grapes Eclipse version did some funny things, had to reset it. It's working fine since. And the rest of my time is spent relocating 2 to 3 feet of snow. With the stuff that clobbered Los Angeles area turned white and ended up here. Thanks, Dave.
Yes. For those of you that haven't been around, Joe is in Flagstaff, Arizona.
2,100 meters altitude.
So next on the list is Jonathan Rizzo, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan. Is he there? He must have stepped away. Next on the list is Michael Howen. He's AC0G. Go ahead, Michael. Michael, are you there? Yes, he's there. Muted.
Hi, sorry. I was hitting the wrong buttons. I'm just trying to leave work. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a few minutes and I'll join the general conversation later. Back to
Okay.
net.
Okay, very good. Next on the list is, I'm gonna probably mess up the pronunciation. It's Phonen. Is that right? Yeah.
Honan? Patrick?
Yes. Go ahead. You're one of the ones that Nathaniel had rounded up to come and join us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking. Yeah. I got in touch with Daniel and Scranton. I was looking for an opportunity to help out there a bit with the students and in whatever capacity. But I have 35 years experience in communication, signal processing. Haven't had too much hands-on in the last 15 years, but before that, I was with GEC Marconi and then briefly with Bell Labs and went off of this startup company that's now part of Qualcomm. But last 20 years I've had a consulting company, and so not a lot of coding and signal processing. in the last few years, but I do have some FPGA experience. But I more of the DSP, on a DSP type code implementation. So, but anyhow, I was Nathaniel invited me up Monday, and was real excited at that. I knew nothing about this this group or what Nathaniel was working on, and it looks great. And any way I could help contribute, I look forward to that. So,
Well, and welcome. I'm sure Franco's anxious to talk to you. But we have representatives from lots of other groups as well. I happen to be a board member of the Tapper group, which is produces radio software, hardware, and we started in packet radio, but we still have a legacy in things like FreeDV, which is and we're actually building a new product for FreeDV. It's like a dongle that will attach to pretty much any kind of radio. We also have a long history of making the HPSCR radios. I don't know if you have it, and they turned into the commercialized as the Anon radios, but they're about 10-year-old technology now. 15-year-old. And then but then we have Nathaniel. We have several other folks here that have been doing other things. And what we're doing right now is working on a software-defined radio that's using very simple USB A to D converters. So it's receive only right now. Franco's working on how to reverse the process to do transmit. That's one process. We also have a radio that we did partially build, mostly during the COVID, and called TangerineSDR. And we ran into limitations of both the hardware and the software that made it beyond the scope of what most of us could handle. So you may want to take a look at that as well. Tom here is the one that was debugging the boards, Tom McDermott. So he'll have a chance to talk too. So I just wanted to welcome you. And we meet here every Monday night, and there are email lists where we converse in between. So
fantastic. Thank you.
yes. Next on the list, we have Phil Karn, K9Q. Phil, you have comments? Is he there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I had to push a couple buttons. Yeah, I'm only here for a few minutes. I have to duck out before I drive to another meeting.
Okay.
I really haven't done anything in the past 2 weeks. I've been traveling. Just came back from Hamcation yesterday, and so I'm still pretty exhausted.
Yes.
So yeah, like I said, I haven't really done anything. So back to the group.
Okay, thank you. And for those of you that are new to the group, Phil is the one that is the author of K9Q Radio, which is the software-defined receive system. And it's pretty amazing, but it strongly depends on multicast. And Phil makes no apologies about that. He just says, learn how to use it. So, okay, next on the list is, I think Rob was here, but he was going to the grocery store or something. He lives in San Francisco, so different time.
A couple more minutes here.
Do you want to give any comments, Rob? Maybe talk about Whisper Demon?
Well, I can, yes, I can, if you guys.
We have several new people here.
why don't you let them, new people, if there's other people on the list, you put me down there. I'll be free in another 5 minutes.
Okay. And next on the list is Tom McDermott, N5EG, and he's in Medford, Oregon.
Hi, Dave, and good evening to everybody in the group. Phil's Git repository has been very quiet the last 2 weeks. I've checked it and not had to rebuild anything. Not too busy on the project due to a couple of other pressing issues, and we seem to be in the middle of concert season, so a lot of work going on there. There is, for new folks, I have a YouTube channel which has 3 videos on KA9Q radio and 1 on the TangerineSDR. And it's the channel name is @N5EG. And so if you go on YouTube, you can look at those if you have an interest. They may or may not get you up to speed, but at least give you some idea of what the various bits and pieces actually do. And so back to the group, Dave.
Okay. And okay, I think, is there anybody I've missed calling on? Don't think so. So at this point,
I'm free now, Dave.
What's that, Rob?
I'm free. So if
okay. Well, at least give a description. We have new people here and they may not know about Whisper Demon and that. So you might want to mention that stuff.
Okay. Well, yes, I'm the author of Whisper Demon, which is an open source software package you can get from GitHub. And it implements a kind of automated system for recording, decoding spots and recording them to the databases. But it dramatically expands the capabilities of a receive site. You can listen to, well, with Phil's software, you can listen to all the Whisper bands simultaneously. And you, at the same time, a new feature, which is what I've been working on, you can also record all the time signals, all the WWV and the 3 CHU bands. You can record IQ recordings of those channels continuously. And at the end of each day, the software now mostly successfully uploads the 24-hour wave files to the Grape servers that are maintained by Bill Engleby. So that's my major effort in the last, my major effort for Whisper Demon over the last couple of months has been adding that Grape support feature to it. And so this allows a Arch 888, which you can buy for $150, and a Raspberry Pi, or better yet, an Orange Pi, or better yet, a B-Link AMD Ryzen based mini PC, one of those. That combination gives you the ability to record all the 9 time transmission channels and upload them daily to the Hamsci Grape servers. So that system is working. I've been going through installation and error handling, debugging at about a dozen sites now. So I think it's fairly reliable. Dave, Michael and I haven't worked on your server or on Bill Engleby's or on, I think, Michael's. Your 3 may be the last 3 to get updated in the group. But I wanted to, I didn't, each new distribution I encounter kind of new sets of errors that the code needs to handle. So it's all a matter of error handling at this point. But this is we should have pretty much, I didn't realize that there's 75 people running Whisper Demon, and 33% of the Whisper spots that are being recorded to whispernet.org come from Whisper Demon servers. I looked at that today. So we're uploading a third of the total spots. There's about between 3 and 4 million spots that are uploaded there per day. So something like 1 million of them come from Whisper Daemon sites. So
Rob,
that's what I'm up to. Yeah.
Rob, you ought to mention the Graphena website.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. You should mention our website, whisperdemon.org.
Yes,
and
and the graphing per user.
I'm sorry. What per user are we referring to?
In your graphing package, you're able to graph any of the users' individual contributions, as well as
Dave.
Go ahead.
Dave, Rob, since Phil has only a little time to stay with here, can we get his perspective on the NTIA 2024 Spectrum Policy Conference since he was there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil, can you tell us a little bit how it went and how, what your perspective is on that?
See there?
Maybe not.
Dell.
Maybe it's gone.
And I thought it went reasonable. I mean, I didn't really expect anything. I mean, the thing is, he told me the whole point was just to make an appearance and to make ham radio, have ham radio give an appearance. And I think it went very well. So I don't know beyond that.
Oh, thanks.
Dave, may I make a offer to David Wolf?
Sure, go ahead.
Dave, this is W7LUX, and I operate both the original grape and the newer Eclipse version. You'll hear a lot of talk about the grape receivers. If you have any questions about them, would you give me an email?
Sure. What's your email?
Yeah, it's W7LUX, Whiskey 7, Lima, Uniform X-ray at ARRL.net.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank
you. We also have Mike. I don't know if he's driving. Can you talk, Mike? Okay. Anyway, he's just getting off work. So just thought I'd give him a chance. Well, at this point, we're really at where we open for general discussion.
Dave,
oh yes, Jonathan, we missed you the first time around.
Sorry about that. I was on the phone. I was on the phone with a call. Anyway, so this week I haven't really done any direct VLF related work. However, I have been testing updates to the GPS daemon code after the maintainer made some updates based on some engineering samples that I sent him. So I sent him the Trimble resolution SMT and SMTX, and he improved the initialization of the Trimble protocol and some various other Trimble protocol related improvements. And so far I've been testing them and they've been working actually quite well. My main goal is to have as much support and functionality for Trimble timing receivers in GPS daemon as possible. U-Block's GPS receivers are quite well supported in GPS daemon, so I wanted to add the some better Trimble support. So I'm getting engineering samples. A lot of old 4G base stations are being decommissioned, and their GPS units, which are often Trimble units, are they're often up for grabs. So sellers on eBay grab them, and I can get them actually pretty cheap. I have updated firmware from them, or from Trimble, that I would update them with, and that's been helping the maintainer of GPS Damon quite a bit. So I'm really happy with his progress, and I'm really grateful for all the updates that he's doing, because he's doing a really nice job. And on that same subject, I've been helping Kung with integrating GPS Daemon into the Grape 2. John Gibbons wired the pulse per second line into one of the GPIO pins of the Raspberry Pi 4 that he uses in the Grape 2. So I helped Kung get the pulse per second device working, the PPS GPIO driver, and I helped him get GPS Daemon working and running with pulse per second support. And when that's running, it sends information to the Network Time Protocol Daemon, NTPD, and disciplines it with a very, very stable time source. So the way it's configured is the same way that I have it on my VLF systems, is that the time is extracted from the GPS serial data. That's coming from the U-Blox serial port. And the time is also extracted from the pulse per second signal as well. So how it works is that the pulse per second signal, that's the most accurate peer that NTP uses. And then if that ever fails, then it falls back onto the GPS serial peer. And if that ever fails, then it falls back to an internet server. So he just got that, all of that configured and working, and he's been writing some Python code so he could not only have GPS Daemon run his system clock through NTP, but he is also pulling GPS information that he needs for the Grape 2 monitoring program. So some really nice progress was made, and I was glad that I was able to help him. So this is going to be a really good thing for the Grape 2. That's all I have. Sorry for being away earlier. Back to the net.
Okay. For the new people, Jonathan is our local expert in VLF transmissions, which are very low frequency, and where he's doing some pretty interesting work in that area, and it's quite different than other kinds of radios, so we value his expertise. Anyway, we can go back to just, I see, to just a general discussion. So anybody else have things they want to talk about?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Michael.
Oh, I finally figured out the mic on this phone. Sorry about the confusion earlier. I've been working on a couple of things this week, Whisper Demon related, Grape 2 related, just visualizing some of their data. And had a power outage at my house a couple of days ago, and have not quite figured out what the weird effect is on my radios. So that's another project in the works. But that's it for me.
Well, good luck with that, Michael.
Thanks.
So we're open for any other. Franco, did you have some questions?
Yeah, one thing I was thinking is Rob around or not? I don't know.
I don't know. He was.
Yeah. Well, Michael may know. Remember last week when we were talking with Nathaniel about extracting 10 sample per second, I say bins out of the 16 kilobyte per kilo sample per second that they have, to be able to tell, not just the zero bin, but also the bins around 1600 and other frequencies. I was thinking if we could use something like an FFT and get some bins and put them into multiple channels in the digital RF format. And with Rob and Michael, I was thinking how many bins they would actually need to be able to uniquely identify which station it is. Makes sense?
Yes, I think Michael and I were. I think Michael is really taking the lead on this on this part of it. I'm not. And so I think it's really more appropriate for him to be the person to answer your questions, but or ask your questions almost in a way. The Franco, I did want to say that I've been using now. Of course, I'm using your your Python code, and I haven't encountered some. I mentioned earlier that I'm encountering some error conditions as I go out to different sites, and in one case, like it occurred just this afternoon, that I create a WAV file directory tree with WAV files that I validate, and then I give it to your Python code, and it complains about some H5 files that are unexpectedly missing. So I don't really know.
H5 files?
Yeah, I think they're .h5 or something that I had to run out, so I don't know exactly, but I'm getting some error messages from your code, and I don't really understand.
Send me an email with actual cut and paste of the error message and see if I can reproduce it here and so troubleshoot where it is, because
I maybe have to give you. I mean, this is a complex error condition, so I might just give you access to the account. It's at one of the KFS servers.
Okay.
So,
then in that case, just email me the access to the account, and then I can take a look. Tomorrow.
Yeah. There was. I was just trying to get KFS up, and it's a site where I'm going to have three. I have three RX 888s. And the each on a different antenna, one of which is pointed, it's this high gain, 12 dBi log periodic pointed at Hawaii. So that should, and the other antennas, there's an Omni that gets Colorado a good, 15, 20 dB stronger. So it should be a site that I'm going to actually record multiple, have multiple receiver pairs, accounts and receiver pairs on Bill's server to be able to document the different, the wave files from antennas pointed in different directions. But one of those is the one that where I was popping up this error. It's a little hard. I think that Dave, you probably encouraged this. I had various layers of bugs, and the side effects of those bugs, one of them was that it would corrupt the permissions of the home directory up on Bill's server, after which you could no longer auto log in. So you had to manually. What?
We use the UMask to fix it, if you remember.
Yes, but after we've done that, of course, we're no longer doing it. but that were left behind were directories and that were not fixed properly. And Bill.
Okay.
And Bill, there are other, and I was not creating the trigger directory name. I was missing an underscore in it. I fixed that.
Yeah, I think we fixed those like a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I fixed that, and I regenerated the problem because I integrated your code into my environment. In my translation process, I once again corrupted the trigger file names and had to fix it. But leaving behind all that. Okay, they leave behind all of these various kinds of errors on Bill's servers. So I cleaned all those out for Bill, but I saw a bunch of error trigger files directories that are even more corrupted than the ones I was creating that were generated by other user accounts. Yeah. So I don't know. Bill isn't here. I haven't looked again. I told him how to get rid of them. I didn't want to go and clean out accounts that I wasn't responsible for, but I told them it was it's pretty easy to do, but I told them how to do it. So but the bigger problem for me is just making sure that all of these receive sites are reliably uploading, and I'm looking to help. Michael's been helping me, and Michael, I think I'm back to the stage where you don't have to look over my shoulder and watch I debug things. I actually think we can get things installed and we're almost to the stage of just monitoring.
I think he's gone actually.
What's that?
Yeah. I think Michael is gone. I don't see him
okay.
here.
Okay, maybe he's driving home. Well, in any case,
what I'm saying, Rob, is that if you have multiple receiver on the same /dev/shgem and so on directory, you don't want to delete the whole thing and you have a race condition then. So one site tries to upload the file.
Yeah, I'm gonna since you can't have Bill apparently doesn't support multiple instruments on one account. So I can't. So I have different accounts, an account for each instrument.
Right.
Now, typically, most sites have only one instrument, one RX888.
Yeah,
but
that's right. Yeah.
But there are some sites like KFS where there are multiple antennas, so there can be multiple RX888s. But I'm just going to run.
Okay.
Okay, and they're just going to have multiple accounts on Bill's, each with its own instrument ID.
That's good.
Yes. So I think that's how I'll solve that problem until Bill comes up with some alternative.
But remember, you have somewhere in the code an rm-fr/dev/hm/grape. So if you run that at the end of each job, you may end up deleting stuff that you're building on a different job. So you don't want to have that. I don't think it makes sense.
No. I'm going to. These will be on physically different machines.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
As it turns out, the architecture, the best architecture is Phil's 888. Phil's code only supports one 888 per physical computer, which means that I run his code. I can and then I multicast out that antenna whisper and signals, put them out multicast PCM. But the wave files I record locally and I upload them locally.
Okay.
And that means that it makes it pretty inexpensive and low power, because you can take a inexpensive receiver, a host computer like a Raspberry Pi 5 or an Orange Pi 5, $100 or less, attach a 888 to it, and you can record all the wave files from that. From all of the time signals off of that one. That's the most expensive component in that whole thing is the Bogner. So hopefully John Ackerman is going to have his John has had his own set of challenges out there. I've been helping him out at his remote site, but his remote site is now part of the Grape network, and he has a 888 out there at his remote site, and I think that's working reliably. I set it up yesterday. I haven't really looked, but it's a absolutely generic, and it's a stellar site. It's well, I shouldn't say it's stellar right now. There's lots of RFI, but he'll get rid of it when he'll get rid of it. But with the whatever the ground loops that are introducing that, the antenna system itself and the location he has is great. So so that will be good. But at KFS, there's actually 3 of these, and I'm going to add a 4th. There's 4 antennas, so I'll have 4 888s, each of which is be recording to a separate Grape account and bill server. And then all the whisper signals at the same time are being processed by a single. As it turns out, I can almost do it on the little B-Link Ryzen 5. It's a little challenged by by that many signals because there's 14 bands, on each of the 4 antennas. So we're talking about processing 48 bands of receive bands from plus in doing whisper decodes on them, and at the same time uploading 4 batches of Grape. But the Grape uploads, recording IQs and compressing them and uploading is actually a pretty lightweight processing. It doesn't require much CPU.
You said you have a server for each instance of K9Q radio, right? So you have 4 different servers at KFS, correct?
Yes, I have 4 different. Well, I haven't created all the different accounts with bills, but yeah, there's 4 different computers, each running K9Q radio, each with its own 888, and that's kind of going to be the flagship installation, I think, for Grape reception. It's going to stress the capabilities of one site. So one of the things that I might mention if there's anyone here using Kiwis with externally GPSDO, just this weekend I learned from one of my Whisper Demon users that, in fact, I think it was from John who uncovered this, that there's a setting in there. If you use an external clock, you also need to turn off some internal software stuff, or the Kiwi will actually corrupt your settings coming from your Bogner. So I think that might explain some of the anomalies we've been seeing in Doppler spreading information from GPS disciplined Kiwis. So hopefully that will have resolved it. But anyone who is, there's so many subtleties in the use of these things. I've been working with the Kiwis now for 5 years, 6 years, and I learned something new about them that I didn't know about today. And I think we're far from fully understanding how to properly use the RX888 and its architecture. I don't think we're close to understanding it. But one of the things I was very impressed by. Yeah.
Send me the site where you have problems so I can take a look.
Can you, Terry, I'm sorry, what are you asking for?
No, you said there's a problem with a site where you have these HF5 errors. I forgot what you said.
I think it's on the KFS Think Center 1.
Okay.
And if you look in I think I've stopped the Whisper Demon, and if you look at if you do a TFW, which is tail minus F on the watchdog log, you would see the log messages lurking there. But I'm not home. I'll be so I can't look at it right now or tell you. But I'll find it and leave it behind for. Let me reproduce it, and then I'll leave you pointers to where you could look at it.
Yeah,
but
perfect. Yeah, that will work.
Again, it's an error. It's an error handling issue. I'm now I'm at the point where that's what I'm dealing with, is figuring out when things go wrong, either because of bugs in my code or conditions that your DRF or Slack or, there's so many steps in the processing chain that, and each step is subject to encountering corrupt files, and how that individual processing utility handles those error conditions differs. So, I had one example was CD. You think CD never fails, you CD. Well, it turns out if for some reason the computer runs out of memory, you do a CD to a directory, it didn't get created. So that fails, and then you run your the SFTP uploader, and it's uploading a directory that it didn't know about. So I never thought I needed to check the return codes from CD, but I do now.
Rob, if you remember, my shell script had a big set-EU of pipe fail, which basically prevents all this condition from the start.
Yes, I know you set up
any comment that goes wrong, it will exit there, and that is kind of the safeguard. Otherwise, you end up having a code with a bunch of condition checks and whatnot that ends up being almost unreadable.
Well, unfortunately, though, yes, it avoids executing the way you did it. It avoids executing, there's a failure once they stop, but it doesn't. If it fails, it doesn't give you a clue of what stage of that series of pipelines was actually failing. So in my case, in order to be able to view and handle and correct the errors, I really need to execute them those one at a time and check the error code from each one so that I get into the log file. I get a log of what's going, where the failure occurred. So I know that how to handle it. And that's the stage. I've largely done most of that at this point. It's most of the error handling is in place, but I left behind a lot of corrupt files on Bill's server, and I still see some server trigger files that look good to me up on the accounts on the servers. As far as I can tell, these are trigger files for directories that were uploaded a month ago, and they're still there. I don't know. It seems it's not a big deal, but again,
we'll figure it out. I will figure out.
I can always flush these things, but when I see errors, I prefer to use them as an occasion to improve my code rather than just try to avoid them, because they'll almost certainly occur again. So that's what I'm working on. But I don't think I haven't encountered any problems with your Python code, Franco. It seems to be
that's
great.
good.
Yeah, so far, that error that you returned, you returned your Python code returned a 1. So I knew that there'd been an error. Okay, so I didn't, but I didn't, but the error code didn't tell me what it was. I've been dumping your standard error and your standard out to individual output files, so I can look at what you output, so that if there's an error, I print it out. But for example, you returned an error and there was nothing in the standard error output log file. It was empty.
We can return error 2, 3, 4, 5 if you prefer. I mean, anything but 0, basically. That's not a big deal if you if it would help,
Well, I don't know that you need to do anything, and maybe there's this will not reoccur. But let me see. I've just reconfigured. I've reconfigured in the system, and there's so much confusion. When you work with a dozen different sites simultaneously, each of which is encountering its own unique set of error conditions, and it's hard to keep things straight. And
I agree.
So some sites thankfully they're getting more and more stable, and so I can winnow my attentions, or focus my attentions more on on the sites, the few sites that remain with error. So this may be an error I may not be able to reproduce. So, but
Okay, well,
I think
if you can and you need help, just email me or
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. The one thing
Oh,
I was
anytime.
going to say is, the other thing we're doing is, you wrote that split program for me that
Yeah.
allows us to record the full 0 to 30 megahertz spectrum, and
Yeah.
and continuously without dropping a sample. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I've kind of lost. I've lost the machine that I was doing that work on, so I don't know where it is at the moment. But I think
I
you
still have the
emailed
source
me.
code.
I recall or did you put your split program up on your GitHub page maybe?
Yeah, or if not, I have in the email I sent to you, so I can just
Yeah.
forward the email back to you.
I'll have. I wouldn't have deleted your email, so I have your email.
Yeah,
The RX stream that you used, I think that's on a GitHub page as well, right?
Yeah, that is our agent CB RxAD stream. Yeah, he's actually joined the group the other day. He's the guy who wrote his Phantom SDR. I don't know if you saw that software they wrote.
No, don't know at all. But anyway, the combination of the two of those, I ran it until I filled up the rotating disk. 4 terabytes. You fill a 4 terabyte drive in 4 hours. So I think there's a number of sites. In fact, one of my collaborators, Clint, is planning to go down with a transmitter, a whisper sound transmitter, down to Texas for the eclipse. So I'm thinking that I may look for a different site. I know Bob had volunteered his site. I don't know if he's still with us.
Yes.
Yeah, Bob, I wanted to
Bob is
alert
here.
you. I just learned yesterday that one of Clint K7OEI is going to just told me yesterday he's going to be down south of Dallas for the eclipse, and so he'll be transmitting with a whisper sound from there. And it seems like asking you to put up and maintain a transmitter through that event would largely duplicate his efforts. So I was just about to send you an email on the subject, but I hope you haven't invested too much time in this so far.
That's okay. I got the vertical antenna out and got it ready to go, but that's okay.
Well, another thing to consider, we might consider doing, is I might send you a QDX, a GPS discipline QDX, and do just a monoband, but at a higher power at 5 watts output, and during the eclipse, because that would be a valuable addition to have a second transmit site. It would be useful to have two, but I think I'm hoping I can find somebody for the whisper sound. That there's a gap along the path. I'm going to mail one to Michael to put in at Dave's or someplace up in Missouri. It sounds like Clint is going to cover Texas. I was hoping we could get some interest from the guys at Case Western to host a transmitter, or somebody up in New England, some place farther, northeast along the eclipse path. And right now, I don't know there's anyone doing that. So I was, given that I only have two of them, two whisper sounds, I'd like to make sure that we had such great success in October with them along the path, and we had a failure. The system in New Santa Fe didn't really transmit well, so it's good we've got some really interesting information, propagation information along the path of the eclipse. So that's why I'm trying to come up with it. It might be better. Bob, one thing that you could do, given that you're where you are, if you could probably, we don't have a good receive site. So maybe a better thing would be to send you a 888 and host computer, like I've described, and have you set that up and become a receive site during the eclipse.
Yeah, why
And
don't you, let me send you an email later with some ideas, and sounds like you've
okay.
got your hands full of other things. Just focus on those.
Well,
And
it's
if
yeah, I feel
if I can help some way, just let me know. I'll be glad to help.
okay. It might be more helpful to be on receive, because Clint won't, a transmit site can't be receive site. So it would actually might be a better use of your site to have you receiving, and that would be it's actually harder to do too, unfortunately. But I think it's fairly. I've sent out packages that people have been able to set up on their own. I mean, it's you just need a Bogner and a triple, antenna feed and a Bogner, a GPS feed, and a connection to the internet. Those are the three things that you really need.
Okay.
So, okay, I appreciate your help, and if your understanding, if I kind of pull the rug out on the transmit side.
That's fine. That's okay.
Okay, thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. I'll email you, or you email me if you have any questions. I'm trying to get all this stuff out. 2 months doesn't seem like much time at all to get prepared for the eclipse.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. That's right.
Yes, that's why I feel it breathing down. And I have various, I have other completely unham related conditions to deal with. So the other things in life. So anyway, that's my activities. I can't think of any. I appreciate all your help, Dave Larson. We're gonna fix you up soon. So don't worry about your site. You'll be okay.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
I've taken up enough of everyone's time here, so I'll go on mute if you have questions for me, unless someone has questions for me. Doesn't sound like it.
Hey, Michael, since you're back, how many frequencies are you going to use to detect if it's WWV or WWV8?
Are you, let's see.
So
I think
basically,
the
I'm going
idea
back to the
was that it would work.
conversation we had with the Daniel last week, where we said, "Hey, we can save somewhere in this format, not just the 10 samples per second around zero, around baseband, but also around a few more frequencies, like what is 1,000, 1,200, and so on." So I was just thinking, how many would we need in terms of size and so on. Makes sense what I'm
Well,
saying, Michael.
The script I wrote works generically on the particular IQ recording for each of the stations. So you could conceivably run it because it's only filtering the IQ, and it is applying an FFT window around the each of the, I guess it's just the two frequencies, 500 and 600 hertz.
Okay.
That's all I'm doing right now, and I could run that in any directory, whether it was any WWV up to 20, because I don't think 25 broadcasts two stations. I think it only broadcasts from Fort Collins. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So the only stations where we need to compare are the 2.55, 10, 15, and 20. And
Hawaii
the
does
single
not have
script will,
20.
I beg your pardon?
Hawaii does not broadcast on 20 either.
Oh, well, then we don't need to broadcast it there. It doesn't really make any difference. So it's only listening to the idea is that each of those stations where there's two stations broadcasting are doing so in exactly the same way. They're following exactly the same minute schedule to determine whether WWV or WWVH is broadcasting either 500 or 600 hertz or nothing. And that's that's the minimal discriminating information I was using to try to tease apart whether it was one or the other that you were hearing predominantly and what the relative difference was between them.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
script
there is
the
a lot.
script simply took the files, the 16 kilohertz files, and applied a
Yeah.
narrow filter of about 5 hertz around 500 and 600 hertz.
The reason why I'm saying that, Michael, is because, of course, in Bill Englewood's site, we cannot store the full 16,000 sample per second IQ file because it's too big and it wouldn't be able. But we were thinking last week that we could store the baseband around 0 and maybe 500, 600. So a posteriori, you could run your script and detect if it was WWV or WWVH, if you had those 10 sample per seconds bin. Makes sense what I'm saying?
Yes. The if the desire was to actually store the audio, and if we can find a more sophisticated way to do it, the method that I was using is not very sophisticated. I don't think. I mean, it really just measures the magnitude during the period of the minute when we know the tone is broadcast, and then uses the rest of the minute on the same frequency to determine a noise floor, and then uses that as a basis for signal to noise ratio. What Nathaniel said he wanted as a data product, I think, was the CSV file, which simply recorded the signal to noise ratio for each of the 2 stations. And at this point, that's what he said would be useful for him. I don't know that they needed the narrowband audio around those same audio frequencies at this point.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Case, if it's CSV, I don't think you can store a CSV into, at least I don't know, into digital ref. Digital ref expects quote samples unquote, so it's not really CSV information, I think.
Yeah, you'd know better than I about that, what can and can't be stored. I think since the CSV file was relatively small, Rob's idea was, and Nathaniel was thinking maybe that would work too, we could ask Bill if we could just do a separate little FTP to the directory for that station of maybe the CSV file and the PNG file. If anybody was interested in looking at the graph, it gives you, a sort of qualitative gestalt of what the relative strengths are of the 2 signals. I'm not sure.
I mean, the PNG would be very easy to derive from the CSV, right? I mean, very easy.
Absolutely.
Almost.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
They're the same. It's just 2 different forms of the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, it's because the CSV is much more smaller in size than the PNG, I suspect. So from Bill Engelke's point of view, I think he would rather have the CSV or something to that extent,
Yeah. Yes. Now, with coordinating with Rob, I think the idea would be if we know what the product is, if a CSV, as far as Nathaniel's concerned, is satisfactory, and maybe a PNG, then Rob's idea was, if I understood it correctly, it would be really easy to incorporate that as just a simple process to run every 24 hours and upload the CSV to the and a PNG if required to the home directory of the station where the DRF files are being stored for the WWV IQ. The full 16 kilohertz samples are retained locally. I'm not sure what part of those Rob had designed to send up to Whisper Demon. the idea in part is we would keep a repository locally that is dependent on the file system size of that local computer. And Rob's currently got it set up so that up to a certain use of the local file system, it starts getting rid of the oldest files to make room for the new files. If an event occurs in, an unexpected event, a CME or some other event that would have a material effect of interest on the ionosphere, then hopefully we would know about it soon enough that we could flag those files and either figure out a different way to store them outside that normal scheme, or something else. But that there'd be a long enough window on most machines that are doing this monitoring that were an event to occur that was of interest, we would have a tail of recorded 16 kilohertz IQ files on every single one of those frequencies that we'd be able to go back and then analyze as needed. It'll vary from computer to computer depending upon how big the hard disk is.
I mean, the CSV files. If I think you are extracting one value every minute, right, Michael? At least if I remember, or not, maybe not.
Yes, one value a minute. Yep.
So 1,400 values a day, pretty much, per frequency.
1440.
1440
1440 values a day.
Times 5. Now, how many there are? The difference between so about let's say 10, just to make so the 14,000 values, and they are floats, right?
Yes.
So 2 times 4, so 14,000 times 8, about 140, about 100 kilobytes per day, I think, if my math is right, and this time of the
Back
day
of the
probably
envelope.
not.
It's not even as big as that 24-hour wave file.
Right. So that's
At
what I'm
10
saying. If you
kilohertz.
just do the CSV, I don't think Bill would have a big problem at that rate, at that kind of situation. Now, how they get processed by I don't think Bill has any way to process them right now. I mean, or
Not right now. It would just be a question
yeah.
of having them there correlated with
Yeah,
the
okay.
the DRF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, it makes sense now.
I am interested in getting better at understanding how that whole process works. I'm really just dipping my toe in for the first time into some of this DSP stuff, and there's an interesting problem that the Grape 2 folks are working on, which is to understand, and I'm trying to understand it now too, how the author of FLDigi set up the sampling and filtering and averaging scheme to do the frequency analysis that the Grape 1 and the Grape 2, certainly the Grape 1 has, and then I think they intend the Grape 2 to use as well. There's the analysis CXX file, XX file in the FLDigi code spells it out, making it actually figuring it out, I think, is the challenge. I was able to take the raw code that they're currently generating out of the Grape 2s and turn it into something that you could graph. But that was, I think, a little bit smaller and easier problem than figuring out this other thing. And the guy who wrote the code for the FLDigi thing has not been helping anybody understand it yet. I guess people have tried to
We
get a
can
hold of
take
him
a
and
look.
without
If
success.
it's, since it's open source, we should be able to figure that one out, I think.
I think so too.
No?
There's been some work. Bill Blackwell's been working on it, and I know John Gibbon has been kind of making sure everybody understands what the underlying hardware is in the Grape 2 that's producing the data. So, right now it's 8,000 kilohertz samples that are stored right out of the ADC, and I figured out how to convert them into double precision floating point and then just do some uh, digital signal processing on it, a Fourier transform, so you could do a spectrogram. And
Okay.
it was kind of beautiful, really. You could see the nice carrier, you could see the 100 hertz regular sidebands, and you could see the alternating 500 and 600 hertz
Oh,
tones
wow.
across the course of 24 hours.
Well, that's neat. You have to show us that when you have those.
Well, look on the website, the GitHub. It's github.com/MJ Howen, I think it is. Let me see. Let me get the are we able to share screen here? Let me make sure I got it on my browser here. There it is. Yeah. Share screen. I'll just do desktop one. Share. Got to go back to this. This is the GitHub site. Are you seeing that?
Okay. Yeah, I
So
mean, I've never seen that, but interesting.
Mija Howen, it's called Grape 2 Data Transformation, and an example. There's a couple of examples of the frequency and the spectrogram on the 5, 50, 10, and 15 frequencies that the Grape 2 is measuring. And I've got a couple of the
Python,
transform
yeah.
key is what forms the raw data out of the Grape 2 into the floating point that's amenable to analysis. And then the graphing simply graphs it as spectrograms. So if I just call one of these up, that's what the spectrogram looks like. So you can see the
Look how
alternating.
they flip-flop, yeah.
Yeah, up above at 500. And actually, I did some different processing. This is very noisy in here. I did a different kind of processing in another program that makes this look a lot cleaner. Because I'm only processing a minute at a time, 8,000 samples. And so you don't get the precision of frequency using those few samples. You really have to spread it out. When I spread it out over the whole, this is an hour's sample, 3,600. If you spread the analysis out and do the averaging over the whole hour, you get much more precise. This is only estimates of frequency and amplitude based on 1 minute of sampling. So per minute. So that's why it's a lot sloppier and fuzzier here. So I did figure out a better way to do that. But there's a 3,000 hertz tone, 2,000 hertz above the carrier. This is kind of crunched and a little bit different because it's 0 up to 1,000, where this is spread out more normally. But these are there's a 440 tone in here probably, and then a 500 and 600 hertz tones. And the period of silence where you lose it during the, well, this is 10 megahertz. So you lose it a little bit here during the daytime hours for some reason. This is so, or is that nighttime? Let's see. This is an hour. I think this is at 0 hours. This is just an hour. This is not over 24 hours. I beg your pardon. Never mind.
Yeah.
This particular hour, this is what it looked like.
You
And
think
in fact,
3,000
these are
is
the minutes when neither of them broadcast. This is when both of them are supposed to be silent.
Yeah.
You think the noisiness is related to the signal strength coming in, or the antenna and the radio reception, or is it the processing?
In this case, it's a mixture, but I think mostly this is a less sophisticated way of getting it. As I said, I'm only doing the frequency estimation based on 8,000 samples, just 1 second's worth of samples. And that does not allow an accurate enough an estimation to any significant, like for instance, what they want to get in terms of analysis precision for the Grape 2s is down to 0.001 hertz. They want to have that degree of accuracy. And to get that degree of accuracy, you need a much bigger window than just a second. You have to have a bigger window or other techniques. If you're just doing it purely on the basis of the samples, there's no way you can get down to that level of accuracy. I mean, it really requires, to get that level of accuracy, you have to have 1,000 times 8,000. You have to have about it's more like 20 minutes or more of samples. At least just using this kind of technique. Now they're using the FLDigi code uses some other some zero crossing technique, and a longer window of signal averaging. That's the part that I'm trying to understand at this point. So, but it occurred to me that with more accurate measurements here, this is exactly the kind of data that you could use to distinguish the two stations, because these alternating 500 and 600s occur at 10 megahertz. Some of this stuff is WWVH and some of it is WWV. And if you map this against what the schedule is for the hour, right? During for instance, minute 28 and 29, neither station broadcasts a tone. And that's why you see that gap. Oops, sorry. A gap right here in the middle. And so neither station broadcasts in tone. But then, in certain minutes, I suspect, for instance, I'll just say an example here would be right here. I suspect this tone is a 600 hertz tone broadcast by WWV, and this very faint little bar is probably a 500 hertz tone broadcast by WWVH. That's what I would expect at my site. WWVH should be quieter. So the relative difference between those two is going to give you, the information that Nathaniel said he was interested in on, which one are you hearing most? Now, how that translates into how you interpret what's happening down here at the carrier level, that starts getting more complicated and beyond what anything I've done so far can answer. So I remain interested in Phil's idea of using his simulator, his WWV simulator. He's got one that broadcasts almost exactly what WWV and WWVH broadcast, and using correlation between that as a reference signal with the received signal to see what the math on that tells you. Kind of like radar, I guess. You know exactly what the signal is you sent, and you compare it to what comes back. So,
Mike, I wanted to mention on the GRAPE message board a couple weeks ago, Graham did some work on using VLFRX tools in a GRAPE application. The benefit to VLFRX tools is that it allows you to take the kind of time and frequency precision measurements that is achieved on a GRAPE 2, but it's achieved with a good quality sound card and a GPS pulse per second. So he got some pretty good results with that. I thought about using VLFRX tools as an alternative software for the GRAPE, mainly because is that it can give the kind of precision data acquisition through the use of a sound card and a GPS pulse per second, and it could and it's fairly easy to set up. The only thing that you have to do is you have to have a pulse per second signal fed into the other channel of your sound card, and use a little potentiometer to reduce the amplitude of the pulse to 80% of the sound card's full scale. And with the right commands running, the right applications, you can not only record the signal, but you can also make spectrograms. You can also make compressed spectrogram plots, and similar visualizations similar to what Graham posted. And that's possible with just a decent quality sound card and a GPS pulse per second instead of a whole grape too. I don't really have the bandwidth to kind of work on this, but I figured that I would mention it as an alternative, not something to take over the great project that's all of the work that has gone into the great project, but as an alternative, and to be able to provide the kind of time and frequency precision that that they're looking for. Because I remember a couple months ago, Gwyn was looking for grape data, but he wanted to know what the frequency offset was, the frequency offset caused by the clock of the USB sound card. So I told him that frequency offset would, vary throughout the day with the ambient temperature. But Villafar tools with the GPS pulse per second kind of calibrates all that out. So it would be able to give him the kind of data that he's looking for. So if you're interested, as an alternative, just reply to the post on the message board, and I could get you started, and Graham could probably jump in too, because he did a lot of pretty good results with that.
So is a pulse per second pulse that you're talking about, Jonathan, modulated at some audio frequency, or is it just a square wave pulse?
It's just a square wave pulse fed right into the sound card.
And you just see like a pop there or something on that channel that you're recording it on?
Yeah. So the software, the VLFRX Tools software, specifically VT time, looks for the rising edge of that pulse. There's also an option if that isn't working for you with the sound card and the sampling rate that you're using. There's an option to shape the pulse with an RC network, and it will look for the centroid of that shaped pulse. So that's just another option. But for this application, the pulse is fed right into the other channel of the sound card, but it's often needed to run it through a potentiometer or a resistor divider to make sure it's 80% of the sound card's full scale. So if the voltage is higher than that, whatever it is, and each sound card is a little different. If the voltage is higher, it'll clip, and the software won't be able to actually accurately look for the rising edge. Mm-hmm. So that's why you need to make sure that it's about 80%. But how you can tell is that there's a VT scope application that will allow you to look at the waveform and adjust that potentiometer as you're looking at that waveform on the VT scope application. And there was also a post on the VLF group regarding Graham's work on setting up the GPS pulse per second with the sound card capture, and it goes over some of the basics. So if anyone's interested, I could post a link to that as well.
My problem is that I'm using my two channels that I have available on the particular interface I have, one for two orthogonal antennas, so that I'm receiving it two different ways. but I have another sound card system that's got 4 channels on it, I believe, so I could switch to that one instead.
Right, yeah. Actually, a really good sound card for that is the Behringer UMC 404 HD.
Yeah, that's the one I have. That's it.
Yep. That's a very, very good high quality sound card. Great for the grape application and great for the VLF application as well.
Right. Okay. Thanks for the information. I'm gonna check out too, guys. See you later.
And if you have any questions, feel free to email.
That's great. Thanks, John.
Mhm.
I'm gonna sign up too. I'm a little tired. Good night, everybody.
I think it's time for me to go too.
Looks like we're done. I just got home, so I'm gonna.
I think we're just gonna
Bye,
wander.
Dave.
Take care.
Rob?
Take care. Okay. Yes.
Did you see my chat message?
No, I have. I'm on my phone, so let's see.
Oh, sorry. I'd be willing to be a radio sound transmitting site if you're looking for one.
Whoops, I'm muted. I didn't know that. I was asking you where you're located.
50 miles north of Detroit, above the path.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. Well, that sounds very attractive. Do you have a multi-band antenna?
Is vertical okay?
Oh, I'm sorry?
The trap vertical okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Anything that covers 80 through 10 that's the hard part of the whole installation is the antenna. The rest of it is easy to set up. So
I think it's 40 through 10, but I'll look it up.
Oh, well, that's okay. That's 80 is we didn't see much interesting. Although no, the truth was actually 80 was pretty interesting in October. You could actually you could see that it was all of there was actually no